In true Alyssa fashion, the dogs are a barking. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You're probably gonna hear the dogs bark, but I just wanted to start this video off with just a little recap. I know I talked about this in my TBR video for January, but I was supposed to go somewhere today. That's why I'm like dressed and actually wearing clothes. What is this? Fuzz? Fuzz on me. That's why I'm dressed and actually wearing clothes. I don't normally wear anything other than like sweatshirts and jeans, maybe leggings on my days off, but plans changed. So I just dressed up, and now what I thought I was doing today is not what I'm doing today. So I just got a whole bunch of time to myself. So I think I'm going to start The God of Small Things today. This is a Booker winner, and this is also a book that a friend of mine who passed away this past year wanted to read with me, and we just never really got around to having the book at the same time and able to read it. And I feel like I'm finally like ready to read the book. I'm just trying to figure out like how to phrase this because it was a really sad passing. And I know that she did read this and ultimately did enjoy it, but I never got, hopefully the video isn't a glitchy, but like I never got to read this with her and I never got to talk to her about it. And I've been almost scared to read it because it's going to be weird not being able to be like, hey, blah, 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 as I'm reading it and talking about it, because I'm not gonna be able to say those things to her. I'm not gonna be able to talk to her about things and be like, did you read this? Did you enjoy this? Like, what were your thoughts? Or like, well, isn't that crazy or whatever. I don't know a lot about this book. She was just like, hey, Alyssa, let's read it. And it took me a really long time to like get it in my hand because of like holds and stuff and COVID and all these things that slowed us down. I feel like this is kind of a stupid regret to have, but I do regret it. I regret not reading this with her because I never knew that I would lose. I never knew that I would lose her. I didn't know that she would be taken so soon because she was like my peer. We were a few years apart. So I'm going to read this. I literally have no idea what it's about. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give those updates to you guys in the form of a reading vlog where I would stop and want to talk about stuff. I'm going to talk about that stuff to you guys. Like, this is my therapy, I guess. This is my grief processing, is this. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this. There will probably be some spoilers. I'm just going to throw that out front because I'm going to talk to you like you've read this. So if you've never read God of Small Things, maybe read it before coming back and doing this. I'm sorry if this video is a little glitchy. I'm recording this onto my hard drive, but also I'm doing like 16 other things and my computer is struggling. This is my grief processing. Maybe, like I said, if you've never read this before, maybe read it before you watch this vlog because I'm planning on spoiling a lot of things. I'm going to talk to you like you've read this book while I'm going through this. So sit tight. Let me get started, and I guess I will see you guys when I have something I want to share, and then we can wrap it up at the end. I have no idea how long this is going to take me to read. I don't know if I'm going to have to like do it in chunks, if this is all going to be like one day, because I literally know nothing about this book. I don't know if I'm going to have to like take breaks because it's going to be exhausting, or if it's just going to be the kind of book that just makes you want to devour it. I know nothing. This is for Jen, and thank you for joining me in this grief therapy session. Okay, it's a little while later. I read the first chapter of God of Small Things, and I think I'm going to take a little break and read some Wolf Hall because I'm still reading that and I want to make some progress. Oh, my voice. I want to make some progress on Wolf Hall. So far, the writing is spectacular. I will say that. I'm expecting a lot of sadness. This is definitely giving me sad vibes. I don't know if I'm right, but it's giving me sad vibes. Those of you who have already read this will be saying things to yourself while watching this. I don't like that, like, just at the very beginning here, they're talking about the twins and their mom. So there's twins, their mom, they're not monozygotic twins. They're two different eggs. They're not the same egg fertilized. And you've got like a grandma or an aunt. I have to figure out how everybody's related. So you've got like baby Kochima, who is like an aunt, I think, like an old aunt. And then you've got Amu, who's the mom of the children, and the children are Estha and Rahel. And we already know that like Rahel gets sent to go live with his dad. Uh, it's like some sort of like parent trap, almost like story without the like fun. And Estha's stuck, at home until she's not stuck at home. The writing seems to be very non-linear. Like we're getting like a lot of information about these people, and I'm not exactly sure where we are in this story at right now. Like my past, present, future, I don't know. I don't know that. All I know is that something happened to the boy to make him not talk. I feel like that's gonna break me. Baby Kochima had the hots for a monk.
I want to fuck a priest. Catholic? Yes. A good one? Yes. Looks good in the end. Yes. I understand.
Things with women are very interesting in this book. Interesting is a word that's going to be used a lot here. I'm sorry. Find me a thesaurus. I'm just so curious about the way women are going to be treated in this book, because it seems like if you're not getting married, they're really not that important. It's early days. Also, I didn't really need this to start with the mother, a mention of the mother dying. It says, I think this is about the twins, that they are as old as Amu was when she died, 31. Not old, not young, but a viable, dieable age. Which, considering that this is like my therapeutic grief read, I don't know if that was exactly what I needed to be hit with right at the beginning of reading this, but that happened. But to go back to the women things, it's interesting because like baby Kochima is like obsessed with this monk. Eventually joins a nunnery. That doesn't really work out. But by the time she comes out, her dad's like, you don't have any marriage prospects now, right? Like you're kind of like tainted. Nobody wants you. So I might as well educate you. It's just such a strange thing. He decided that since she couldn't have a husband, there was no harm in her having an education. Like if you're not going to be married, then you should at least have an education. But if you're going to be married, then it doesn't matter. Such a weird statement in my brain. And I understand that, like, we're talking about like different times, different cultures, all those things, but there's still this, like, it doesn't jive up there. I'm still trying to figure out where we are in terms of time period. I'm guessing that we are in their 30s, and there's a lot of weaving back and forth into what has made these twins the way they are. I could be very wrong. Future Alyssa will have some thoughts just on this statement, but I'm very curious. I'm very curious about these twins. They seem very strange. They seem like something tragic is going to happen to at least one of them, and I feel like this is going to be a ride. But the writing so far, it's top notch. It is well written. It is really, really good. And I just keep thinking about Greek lessons because I'm like, what is this theme of like mute people? Why is my January starting off with books where people have trauma and then end up mute? I will continue this in a little bit, and I'll give you an update when I get there. I don't know if I'm going to do like every chapter you get an update or like every couple chapters, but I figured I'd do one after the first chapter, and then we'll see how I feel going forward. There are about 21 chapters. I feel like 21 updates would be a lot with a wrap up, but we'll see. We'll see how the mood strikes me. Hi. It's a few days later. I'm about to hop in the shower and go to work, but I had my coffee and some avocado toast this morning, and it feels so fancy having avocado toast. But I got through a bit more of The God of Small Things. I knew this book was going to be heartbreaking, but I just finished chapter 4. So whatever happens to Estepin to make him not speak is starting to occur. He's been like essayed on the page in a really terrible fashion, and the amount of dissociation that's occurring, and now the guilt that he has on top of that is just so heartbreaking. And this, we haven't even gotten to like see how much Esther like breaks down from this, because I'm only right after this. We're like a day into him dealing with it, and it's so sad. And what really broke my heart is that Rahel says something, and it's not very nice, while they're at the movie theaters after this thing has occurred, and nobody knows about it because he doesn't tell anybody about it. And the fact that he has to go see his abuser like minutes after this has occurred, uh, and oh, it's so traumatizing, and it's so terrible. But the fact that his sister does something And the mom says, "Just answer me. Do you what?" Rahel said in the smallest voice she had. "Realize what you've just done," Amu said. Frightened eyes and a fountain looked back at Amu. "Do you know what happens when you hurt people?" Amu said. "When you hurt people, they begin to love you less. That's what careless words do. They make people love you a little less." And Efsa is hearing this like just after being SA'd, and he's young and he's internalizing all of this, and I just know it's going to be traumatic, and I'm so heartbroken for this little boy, and it's just so terrible because he's like questioning whether anybody will love him if they knew what happened to him. Like he's carrying all this guilt, the victim survivor guilt of this when he's done nothing wrong. It's just so terrible. And I want to know why the Booker Prize likes books like this, because this is a winner. Yeah, Shuggie Bain won as well. And there's something about like little boys being molested that the Booker seems to like. It's weird. It's weird to me. I'm not saying that either of these books does not have the merit, but it's strange that as I'm going into this Booker, reading more Booker books, how I don't that's not a theme I want to pick up on, is like child molestation. Anyway, okay. I have to get ready for work because I'm starting to run late. But this is I don't know. I have the audiobook, so I might listen to more on the way to work, or I might listen to something else. I'm gonna decide when I get in the car, but this poor boy. So I'm nearing the end. I'm on chapter 14. I'm going to take a break because I have some things I have to get done this afternoon, but we will finish God of Small Things today. There's just this like looming build up to two things, to Amu and like her run away and whatever happens to Sophie Mall. And I don't know how these things are all interconnected at this point, but it sounds like stuff is about the river. This river is playing huge into it. I'm sort of like, I just kind of want to know at this point. The writing is beautiful. The commentary on uh, the culture and the class system or caste system is phenomenal. The sort of fluid moving back in time in the story, though often confusing, is really beautiful and well executed. Would take some brain power. It's not an easy to follow book, but it's a beautiful book so far. And I'm so mad that I didn't read this when Jen was live, because it would have been so lovely to have talked to her about. I will come back with an update and wrap up for all of this. It's just such a weird story because you know the ending, but you don't know how we get there, and you also know how sad it's going to be, that journey and that ultimate explanation of how we get to point B from point A and all of the twists and turns in between. I'm just reading the back here. It says, the brilliantly plotted story uncoils with an agonizing sense of foreboding, yes, and inevitability. Yet nothing prepares you for what lies at the heart of it. And I am so desperately waiting to get there. I think one of the things that is so sad to see is how the lemon orange drink man just haunts Esta. How that man just haunts him everywhere. And I just wonder if anybody ever finds out about him. There's so much sadness in here. I'm so curious about Rahel and like how much does Rahel know in the moment and how much does she find out later? Don't mind Mercy drinking. It's just, I can see why this was a Booker winner. Also, I'm just realizing that this is a HarperCollins book, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that they are on strike and that strike is incredibly important. It's a backlist title. It's not new. I'm not working with anybody. I have had this on my list since before all of that. I did not buy this direct. It was $2 um, at McKay's Books. So I have not given them any of my money. However, I still think it's a really valid book to maybe pick up from your library. And I will once again leave links to the HarperCollins Union's Twitter down below in case you guys want to check out more about what they're demanding, how you can support them, and all of that. It is really hard to review books and do so in, like, I read very mood like, and I just weave through what's on my shelves. And these Harper books feel like little like landmines along the shelf because the authors deserve their work spoken about and the workers deserve a living wage. So I hope that they settle this strike for the betterment of the employee. Yeah, so more updates to come. We're almost there. Just waiting to get my heart broken. I just finished. Finished. The score is going off. This it's so sad. And not like Betty sad in a way where I'm tearing up, but it's like I think because I knew how sad it was going to be, and the way that this narrative is sort of drip fed to you, I was prepared at every point, so no tears. But I think I'm gonna like watch some reviews, write out some thoughts, do all that, and give you guys an official wrap up and like more like a rambling review style like I do for most of my other books. But I haven't been doing weekly vlogs, so I thought that this would be a nice addition, sub in for that. But it's just so sad how like holding firm to these beliefs of like class and status and like who is okay to be with who and creating like these really rigid systems where nobody feels actually safe to be themselves can just lead to so much trauma and just so many terrible things happening. Like I feel so bad for Amu and like her life, the way that she was just such like a second class citizen in her own home in her own family because she was divorced and then because of like the choices she makes after divorce which were made because it made her happy. uh, Her children, how they suffer because her mom is so tainted by other things, right? They are not as loved as Sophie Ma. They're constantly saying Sophie Ma loved from the beginning. Sophie Ma loved from the beginning. Sophie Ma, she is the golden child, right? Whereas these twins are not because they are just different. They don't follow the mold. It's so sad. I'm just sorry. I'm collecting my thoughts. There's a lot going on here because, like, it's so weird that her brother is like this. He's divorced, but like he is still like absolutely in love with his wife, and like his daughter is just like the most perfect daughter ever. But like Amu's children are like the least perfect people ever, and like I understand why her son doesn't talk anymore because he's absolutely traumatized, and it's just I need to collect my thoughts. I cannot do a wrap up of this right now. There's too much going on. But no wonder this family just implodes. You cannot have this rigid of a structure and expect it to last forever. You are a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. You can't. Okay. I need to compile thoughts, get coherent, and give you guys a final wrap up. Um, I'm so mad I didn't read this with Jen. Now I'm gonna cry. Now I'm gonna cry because I didn't read this with Jen in real time. But that's okay. That's okay. This was my grief and grief counseling through trauma. Anyway, I shall finish this wine and collect my thoughts and come back to you with a wrap up at some point. Hey guys, I it's several days later now, I think, and I'm ready to wrap up the God of Small Things for you. So I have some notes. I have gone through some reviews and summaries and back stuff just to help collect my thoughts and to get an idea of what people are looking at with this book and what they are thinking. And it definitely seems like there are some mixes on whether or not you enjoyed reading God of Small Things. I personally really enjoyed this book. I thought it was incredibly written. The one of the things I really love is when an author can use language on the page and make it lyrical and poetic and play with sounds of words and play with language in that kind of way where when you say it out loud, it has a life to it that isn't there when it's just written on the page. And I feel like the author does such a beautiful job with this book about bringing actual breath to the words. And that is what carried me along throughout the novel and just made me keep wanting to read and just floored me with how beautiful that is. But other people sort of didn't like certain things that she did with the narrative and the way that maybe she smushed words together or the way that she became kind of repetitive in the phrasing of things. But I kind of liked this because when you hear the words out loud, I listen to a lot of my books because I have to kind of dive in and out of formats to be able to read as much as I do. And listening to something can sometimes change your relationship to it. And this is one of those books that I feel like goes beautifully on audio because those things that if you're reading them on the page that you might find annoying, like those weird repetitions of phrasings and things, those things, when said out loud, become part of almost the musicality of a story and the way it's being told, like an oral narrative. And that worked really well for me. I might not have worked well for you, but for me, I loved that. I'm giving it 5 stars, like knocked out of the park for that. But I do think that there are some things that are not perfect with this book. In particular, there's this constant foreshadowing of the event that is going to occur at the very end of this book. I know I watched Katie's review of this, Katie Books, and he's like, you could just read chapter 17 and it would tell you the whole story. And it kind of does. I feel like that's doing the rest of the book a disservice because I think she's showing you how those events, that very quick, narrow moment in time impacted an entire lifetime for these children, for the family, for other people involved. But we'll get to that in a second. But one of the things about the foreshadowing that I didn't really enjoy is that it kind of became too much because you don't really find out until the last 10% of the book what actually happened exactly in detail to create this foreboding throughout the story. And I feel like that was too far to let it go because ultimately you lose a lot of the emotional impact of the story. I was expecting to cry and stuff while reading this, and I didn't because I was too prepared for what was going to occur for it to emotionally impact me in the way that I kind of wish it had. But again, I just for the writing alone, I love the story and for me it's perfection, but I just need to be very honest about where there are flaws, and I think that this is a flaw that if you didn't enjoy it, I think it may be part of why you didn't enjoy the story, but I loved it. I think my favorite thing about this is how beautifully our author talks about how moments and minutes in a life can change an entire lifetime. And it's not just Amu and her untouchable lover. It's not just the death that occurs. It is not just the lemon drink, orange drink man. There are these one moments in each of these characters' lives that truly changes who they are, and they don't take a long time. Estha has his assault. Rahel, sorry, the sister has a moment with her mother where she does something on that same day with the lemon drink, orange drink man that makes her mom say something to her about how when you do bad things, basically, it makes people love you less. And she's forever like haunted with this idea that her mom loves her less. And, Sophie Mull was loved forever, but like, I haven't been. There's this idea of not being loved appropriately because of your own faults that Rahel seems to never be able to shake from like one moment and one thing said to her. I was constantly fighting against the social mores of India at this time because she's a divorced woman, because she has these two children, because she has an illicit affair with somebody that is not in an appropriate class to be having an illicit affair with. She violates the love laws. These are people that cannot live within the suffocating boundaries of India and their society, especially at this time. There's a lot of turmoil and just struggling that's occurring on a personal level, but there's also the outside world. We're looking at 19 sort of 60s India, and you're looking at kind of 1990s India, and there's a thing that has occurred called the Green Revolution, where all these pesticides and things have been used to stave off, famine essentially. And that's great because people have food. However, the flip side of that is that many of the lower caste members of society have been cast out of their jobs as a result. And also, the landscape of India has been sort of destroyed. The parts of this narrative where you are in 1960s India in this small town, the town around them, the land around them is lush and full of life and beautiful. And when you flash forward to the more current time of the 90s, the land is dead and sad and devoid of any of that beauty that it had when the kids were children. And you see this political turmoil happening around them in the 90s. And it sort of mirrors all the turmoil that's happening in the home itself. I think this story is actually really beautifully done, and I think uh, there's more to the plot than the straightforward trajectory of just like a bad thing happened and here are the consequences. She weaves in political commentary, social commentary, commentary on being a woman in India, commentary on being from a lower caste in India, and I think it's expertly done, and I see why it won a Booker. I know it's not for everybody. I know not everybody enjoyed it, but those of us who did seem to really love it. I absolutely loved it. And I'm sad I didn't get to read this with my friend, but I'm glad that I finally read it. If you've read this, I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know down below. I didn't touch on everything. I don't want this to be a 900-hour video. We could touch on more things, but I do want to leave you with one little quote, and it is after all so easy to shatter a story, to break a chain of thought, to ruin a fragment of a dream being carried around carefully like a piece of porcelain. I thought this was beautiful. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go come closer next to me, trying to find another way